Stress almost destroyed my life, and it's one of the most common issues with modern day men. Stress comes in the form of relationships, business work. It's stressful being a husband, being a father, being an entrepreneur or career-driven man, but it's also stressful just to be a man in this day and age. Now, in this video, I'm going to share with you the 5 different types of stress and how you can overcome them. If you don't understand what these stresses are, it's very difficult to consciously change what's going on. And if you don't control your stress, you'll have issues in relationships, you won't make as much money, and you won't be happy because you're constantly thinking about all the things that you've got to do, or all the things that get to be done. When you master your stress, you'll actually be able to have more time, more happiness, you'll make more, and you'll enjoy the game of life, which means your family and you get a better version of you. So without further ado, let's jump into the stress. If you don't know who I am, my name's Toni Versic. I'm the founder of the Empowered Man Movement, and we help high-performing, career-driven men, business owners, husbands, and fathers take back control of their life so they can make more money, have more fun, have better relationships, and enjoy this life. Without further ado, let's jump into the stress. So there are 5 types of stresses, and when you understand these stresses, you'll understand how important it is to eliminate them. Because when you don't have control over these stresses, you will lose time, you will lose money, but you'll also lose energy. And as men, we need that energy to be successful at work, to provide for our family, to be present as a husband, as a father, but also to be happy and enjoy life, because so many of us are so stressed all the time, we don't enjoy life. And this is when we turn to things like drugs, porn, gambling, weed, alcohol, to numb ourselves and sedate ourselves instead of actually dealing with what's right in front of us, which is the stress in our life. Stress can destroy you and kill you, and eliminating stress can also mean more money, more time, more energy, and more happiness from life. So I'm going to share these 5 stresses with you and why they're important so that you can be happier. But before we do that, we need to understand what stress actually is. Stress is a normal human response. It's actually an ancient response, and stress actually means fight, flight, or freeze. What would happen to our body is a dinosaur would come from wherever it may be, and that dinosaur would chase us, and our body would go into a state of stress. It's like a caveman thing. And when we're in that state of stress, we either fight the dinosaur, we either flight, so we run away from the dinosaur, or we freeze and we do nothing, and the dinosaur comes and eats us. Now, the only logical option there is to run. This is the crazy thing though. In this modern day and age, there are no dinosaurs. There are no lions chasing us. We live in a land of plenty and freedom, most of us, if we're not in a war-torn or third world country. So the body doesn't actually know the difference between a dinosaur or lion chasing you and the stress you have from work, or the stress you have from your partner, or the stress you have from raising children. Now, what happens when the stress response happens is your body creates cortisol, and cortisol is the stress hormone. It's actually stored around your belly. It's a belly fat hormone, and that stress, that cortisol, is what causes you to get into that state of fight or flight. If you ever feel on edge, if you feel like you're constantly, like you struggle to switch off, that is stress and cortisol pumping through your body. And that's because your brain and your body think there's a dinosaur there. Now, what this cortisol does is it's got you in this constant state of fight, flight, or freeze. Now, the reason this is a problem is when you go into that state, your body gets ready to fight or run away, which means all the blood goes away from your brain, it goes away from your penis, it goes away from your organs, and it goes into your muscles. It goes into your biceps, into your quads, into the muscles in your body so that you can fucking fight or so that you can run away, which means it's going to affect your penis. It's going to affect erectile dysfunction. It's going to cause brain fog and you're going to struggle to think. It's going to cause you to not be able to operate efficiently, and it's going to cause you to feel low on energy and lethargic. This is because your body physically is pumping that blood so you can fight or flight, and this is a big problem. If you do this for too long, it destroys your health. So that's what stress is. It's there to help us. You have good stress, which is like going to the gym and pumping your biceps. That makes you stronger. You have bad stress, like worrying about what happened in the day. Now, there are actually 5 types of stresses we get to work on to fix this. And we call these the stresses of the stress bank. Now, the first type of stress is psychological stress. Psychological stress is thoughts. As modern day men, as human beings, so many of us struggle to control our thoughts. Now, we have about 80,000 thoughts per day, give or take. I don't know how they figured that out, but that's what they say. And if you listen to every single thought you had, you'd probably in jail. Because we've all had the thought of wanting to kill someone. We didn't act on it. This is because we can control our thoughts. But when we feel psychological stress is when our thoughts get away from us. It's when we start thinking about things in the future. I need to do this. I should have done that. I have so much to do. I have so much on my plate. And then we start to feel overwhelmed. We start to think about all the things in the future. We think about something that's happened in the past. We think about all the things we have to get done, especially being busy men. And that stress starts to build up as thoughts. And those thoughts are framed in stories. So stories like what I just said, I need to do this. You come home, there's dishes in the sink. The story is my wife isn't looking after the house. That story framed in language is in your head. It's psychological, and that causes stress through thinking. Now, this leads to the second type of stress, which is emotional stress. Emotional stress is feeling. As men, as human beings, we have feelings, and we have been told to suppress these feelings. If we're feeling angry, we don't just say to our partner, hey, I'm starting to feel some anger build up. If we're feeling triggered and stressed from work because somebody fucked up, we don't go to them and say, hey, unfortunately you did that wrong. We let that stress build up, and it builds as emotions in our body. And especially high performance men, I've done this in my life. We wear a mask and we don't want to show people our emotions. So we have these thoughts, there's dishes in the sink, and then the emotion, the feeling is anger. The feeling is tension in your body. The feeling is frustration. The feelings are linked to the psychological stresses. One of the stresses in your life might be, as an example, we had a client whose wife decided to divorce him. So the psychological stress is, how am I going to pay my bills? What's going to happen to the house? And then the emotional stress is the feeling of guilt and shame and anger at his wife. And these emotional stresses destroy us. The 5 biggest emotional stresses are fear, anger, shame, hurt, and guilt. Fear, anger, shame, hurt, and guilt. Those are 5 emotions most men feel but cannot express. And these feelings are in your body. So psychological stress is in your head, and it leads to emotional stress inside of your body. Which leads us to the 3 other stresses that most people don't even think about, let alone consider. Really? If you're enjoying this video, then tap the subscribe button down below. I release content like this every single week, full of value and advice on how to minimize stress, improve your relationships, grow your business, and live a happier life. So tap subscribe down below right now and give the video a like just so I know that you've watched it. The 3rd stress is digestive. Yes, and this is going to blow your mind. Digestive stress affects your psychological and emotional stress more than almost anything else. Let me repeat that one more time. Digestive stress, what goes on in your gut between your diaphragm and your balls, right? It affects your psychological and emotional stress more than anything else. If you want to make more money, if you want a better relationship, if you want to grow your business, or if you just want to be happy, get out of states of anxiety, depression, or stress, it begins with your gut. And this is the crazy thing. Your gut controls about 95% of your serotonin. Now, serotonin is the happiness chemical. Serotonin is the mechanism with which antidepressants work on. Anti-anxiety and antidepressant medication can work on the serotonin receptors in your brain. So serotonin, if you think about it, you don't have to remember the name. It just makes you happy. When you're calm, when you're happy, when you can switch off, the serotonin is balanced in your brain. And 95% of the serotonin in your body is produced in your gut. So if you're having psychological stress from business, if you are angry or triggered emotionally, you can actually work on those things by simply improving your gut health. Now, the second type of the second type of chemical produced in your gut is dopamine. 50% of the dopamine in your body is produced in your gut. And dopamine is the chemical we use when we're on our phones. When you're constantly scrolling through YouTube, Instagram, Facebook, your body and mind are looking for a hit of dopamine. If you have addictions to alcohol, to weed, to cigarettes, to porn, to gambling, or you just feel like you constantly need to do something, that's the dopamine pumping through your body telling you, I need a hit, I need a hit, I need a hit. So if you want to eliminate addictions, if you want to be able to be grounded and centered, 50% of that is in your gut. So your happiness, your addictions, and the way you live life comes down to your gut. And this third stress is one of the least looked after. At the end of this video, I'm going to share with you exactly how to fix it in 2 simple steps. Now, the fourth type of stress that we deal with as modern day men is sleep, right? Sleep is one of the most important pieces of this puzzle. Now, this might sound ridiculously obvious, but if you just fix your digestion and if you just sleep better, your emotional and psychological stress will almost disappear. You will be able to handle anything life throws at you. You will be unfuckwithable. We have had clients with anxiety and depression who have simply fixed these 2 stresses, sleep and digestive, and therefore they've been able to fix everything else going on in their life. So sleep is a funny one, and it's very, very simple. There are a few tips here for sleep that I'm going to share with you. I'm going to share with you how to eliminate each of these stresses in a second. But ultimately, you want to increase the quality of your sleep and the quantity of your sleep. You want to have at least 7 hours a night. So you want to be in bed for at least 8 hours to make sure you get that 7. If you can get 8, that's even better. Now you might be thinking, well, Tony, I've got to work, I've got a family, I've got a business, I've got to balance everything. Yes, you do. But if you don't recharge your batteries, everything begins to break down. And the final type of stress is physiological stress. Physiological stress is the stress you put on your body, right? So psychological stress is in your head, it's the thoughts. Emotional stress are the feelings that go through you. Digestive stress is your gut, and sleep stress is the quality and quantity of your sleep. If you don't get enough, your body gets stressed. I'm sure you've had a morning where you wake up and you've slept terribly and you're a grumpy bastard, grumpy dad to be around. My hand goes up, I've done it too. The final stress is physiological, and this affects all of the other stresses and they intertwine with each other. So physiological is your body, yeah? Digestive is physiological, sleep is physiological, emotions physiological, but it's the physical stress you put on you. As an example, if you go to the gym and do bicep curls, that muscle gets put under stress. It starts to tear apart. And because it's under stress, the body goes, okay, next time this muscle is used the same way, I'm going to rebuild it a bit stronger. And those micro tears in the muscle actually make it easier the next time around. So that's a good stress. A negative physiological stress or physical stress would be breaking your arm. That stresses the bone. It's a stress fracture. The bone breaks. And now that's a negative stress. So physical stress is exercise. It's a whole bunch of other things, injuries, etc. Now, all of these 5 stresses link together, yeah? And if you think about your body like a bank, there is a bank, and in that bank, there is a limit to how much money you can put in that bank. And let's just say, for argument's sake, you can only afford to put $100 in that bank at any one time. So if you try to put more money in that bank than $100, you can't put it in. There's not enough, yeah? So if you look at each of these stresses, psychological stress, if you think out of 0 to 100, 100 is you are more stressed than you've ever been. You can't stop thinking. You're constantly switched on. You can't switch off. That's 100 out of 10, 100. And 0 is you're not having any negative thoughts. Same with emotional. 100 is you're constantly feeling stressed, you're feeling angry, you're feeling triggered, you're feeling guilty, etc. You feel fear. That's 100. 0 is you don't feel any negative emotions. Digestive stress. 0 is you have no bloating, no gas, you go to the bathroom regularly, you feel good physically, you have no brain fog. And then 100 is you have brain fog, you have low energy, you're farting a lot, you've got bloating, you've got gas, you've got diarrhea. That's 100 in terms of digestive. Sleep. 0 is you sleep brilliantly every single night. You wake up every morning feeling amazing. 100 is you barely get enough sleep. You're exhausted in the morning. And physical stress, you're full of energy. You feel amazing. You feel like a teenager. You wake up with an erection. That's a 0. And 100 is like you are struggling energetically. You're weak, you're tired, that's 100. So 100 is like the high number we don't want to hit. We want to lower each of these stresses. Why? Because when our body's in fight or flight, aka stress and cortisol, our body takes the blood away from where it's needed, and we waste time, we waste money, we waste energy, which means we don't have output, we don't have performance. So if you think about it, what is your psychological stress out of 100? 100 is too much, 0 is nothing at all. And you put that number in here. Let's say you're a 50 out of 100. And then your emotional stress, what is that out of 100? Okay, it's a 60. So you do plus 60. And I'll give you a tool at the end of this to actually do this exercise. So we're already at 110 out of 100. So that bank is full. That bank has no more capacity to be full. And by the time, if we go to digestive stress 50, sleep stress 60, by the time we get to physical stress, which is what your body uses as energy, like your physical stress is how you do things. The way you grow a business, the way you make love to your wife, the way you lead your children comes down to your output. And your output's done with your body. You don't just think about shit and it happens. You're not telepathic. Your body does things. So by the time you get to your body, you're running on fumes and you're like a 300 out of 100 in your stress bank and you can't do shit. And this is the story for so many men. Like they cannot do shit because they are constantly stressed. They're constantly under pressure. Their dopamine is fucked up, so they're addicted to everything. Their serotonin's fucked up, so they're angry, they're irritable, they're triggered, they're not happy, they're depressed or anxious. And what ends up happening is, instead of dealing with these stresses in a healthy way, instead of lowering our psychological stress, lowering our emotional stress, lowering our digestive, sleep, and physiological stress, this is where we turn to coping mechanisms. And I did this for years. I'd have a long day at work, constant problems, putting out fires, running a business. And then as soon as I get home, what do? I get triggered and I take it out on Rosie. So now there's more psychological stress. I'm thinking she doesn't support me. Then there's emotional stress. I feel guilty because I yelled at my wife. Then there's digestive stress. So I start drinking each night. And the drinking fucks up my sleep. So by the time I wake up in the morning, I'm exhausted and it's this cycle. This is where we numb ourselves with weed, cigarettes, alcohol, porn, gambling. We're trying to minimize our stress, not by dealing with the root cause, but by actually numbing ourselves, by sedating ourselves. Sedation is what you give a horse. You give him tranquilizer to put him under. We sedate ourselves instead of dealing with the root cause. And this can destroy relationships. This can destroy businesses, and it can destroy the rest of your life. So let's recap. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to share with you 2 simple things you can do right now to instantly lower all 5 of these stresses and therefore be happy and healthy again. So there's psychological stress, which is thoughts. There's emotional stress, which is feelings. Digestive stress, which is the gut. Sleep stress, which is the quality and quantity of your stress. And physical stress, which is what you have left over to perform at your peak. Now, one of the easiest ways you can lower each and every one of these stresses is simply to fix the digestive stress. And here at the Empowered Man, what we teach all of our clients, just get my screen back. Here at the Empowered Man, what we teach all of our clients is 3 simple things you get to do. 2 really, okay? The first one is add. The second one is eliminate. If you want more energy, if you want to make more money, if you want to be more successful, if you want to be happier and healthier, if you want to have a great relationship full of intimacy and sex with your partner, and if you want to be a role model for your kids, it begins with lowering stress. And there are 2 things you need to do. One is add, the other is subtract. The first thing you add is more water. Now, this might sound ridiculous, but simply drinking more water each and every day will improve your business and your relationships and your happiness and lower your stress. Now at Empowered Man, we recommend 50 milliliters per kilo of body weight. So if you weigh 100 kilos, that's 5,000 mils, which is 5 liters. Just use a calculator online to figure this out if you're watching in the States or somewhere where we don't use milliliters or liters. If you use gallons, use that calculation. If you weigh 80 kilos, 80 times 50 is 4,000 milliliters. So have 4 liters of water a day. This is going to do wonders for your gut. It's going to help things move around down there, and you are adding this into your day. The way I like to do it is I just have 3 of these bottles on my desk each day. It's 4.5 liters of water, and that way I hit my target each and every day. The second thing you want to do is subtract. And there are two things we subtract from our nutrition and our diet to improve our gut. There's actually three, but one of them is alcohol, and I'm not going to make you go that deep right now. The first one is dairy, and the second one is gluten, not alcohol. Gluten and dairy, right? Gluten and dairy wreak havoc on most people's guts. Some people are okay with them, but what they do is they cause a sluggish gut, they fuck with your dopamine, they fuck with your serotonin. So if you eliminate gluten and dairy for 2 weeks and drink enough water for 2 weeks, you're going to think clearer. You're going to be better at reframing the triggers and negative thoughts. You're going to be able to process shitty feelings and negative, stressful feelings. You're going to sleep way better, which means physically, you're going to be able to show up in business, in relationships, and in your own personal health and happiness, right? So add water, 50 mils per kilo, remove gluten and dairy, right? Gluten is things like bread, anything with wheat in it, basically, pastas. You can get gluten-free variations, and dairy is cheeses, yogurts, milks. Again, you can get dairy-free variations. If you do these two simple things, it's going to lower every single stress, all starting with the gut. Now, I know this sounds simple. I know it sounds too good to be true, but your mission for today's video is simply to try it. Try it for 2 weeks and see what happens. This will improve every area of your life, and our clients cannot believe it when they go through it. So that's pretty much it. There are 5 stresses: psychological, emotional, digestive, sleep, and physiological. They all affect one another. When the stress comes up, it causes you to go into fight, flight, or freeze, which creates cortisol in the body. That cortisol destroys your health, destroys your time, your energy, and your money, which means you cannot operate at the right capacity in business, relationships, and health. Therefore, it's this vicious cycle, and it gets worse and worse and worse. You sleep worse, you think worse, you feel like shit, you feel sluggish and tired, but what most men do is they just keep working. They keep pushing through, which is not the solution because that causes more stress. I'll leave you with this. My aunt passed away from lung cancer when I was in my teenage years, and she was one of the most stressed people I've ever met. I can still remember as a teenager how stressed she was. And she smoked, and she wasn't very healthy. She ate a lot of shit, but the biggest thing was stress, and it caused her to die at 30 years old from lung cancer. That is the power of stress. Stress causes heart attacks, it causes health issues. So please, drink more water and eliminate gluten and dairy from your diet. In the next podcast or video, what I'll do is I'll walk you through 2 powerful ways you can eliminate psychological and emotional stress using our Empowered Man method. But for now, that's it on stress. Lower your stress and every area of your life will get better. Now, as a little bonus, what I'll put down below this video is a link where you can actually rate your stress out of 100 and get your stress bank score in each of these areas. So click the link down below to get that. And if you got value from this video, please hit the like button. Give us a subscribe. I launch content like this every single week. One last thing, I hope you got value from this video. Up above or down below, there'll be another video on the 7 hacks to improve your communication and eliminate arguments. So if you're getting into arguments with your partner, if you're struggling to be successful in business and also your personal relationships, then click on that video right now and learn the 7-step hack to eliminate arguments and improve your communication. Hope you enjoy that video.